This account of my modest sojourn in the uncanny City of Bliss might be a treat to all the itinerants and the habitants who like adventures, though the perusal won't give them any whereabouts of the city and its location, or if by any chance I come to know, I won't disclose the location of this abominable city to anyone. As of my mind, I too unable to relive the tracks which lead me to a land filled of grotesque rocks, bones, and reptiles. All I remember was this high mountain coast I was traveling to visit a new coastline and a V-shaped rock discovered by a veteran archaeologist, Axel Flinch. Axel Flinch's article was published in the local newspaper, which detailed the exotic land he discovered along the coast of the mountains. Furthermore, it was the second paragraph of his article which grabbed my attention to visit the coastline. The mountains along the coastline marked exotic scenery never seen before, though between it, in a very modest column, the high wailing tides gagging on a gigantic V-shaped rock placed in between the mountains and the sea. I measured the height of the rock when the tides were calm. It was about 22 feet. That rock intrigued me the most. What was behind it fascinated me more, but I lacked the courage to make it to the gigantic rock due to the high waves of 15 to 17 feet, which is normal to the coastline, as the locals told. Reading this intrigued me more to pay a visit to the coastline. My guide was a local who told me not to take any fortuity to harm myself. Probably, he studied my facial expressions, in which craved to visit that enormous V-shaped rock was quite clear enough. The matutinal tides were sincerely about 15 to 17 feet. The V-shaped rock's top was discernible, which was widely covered by lichen. What I perceived of these high tidal waves on this rare coastline was due to the congested area to the shoreline, which mostly concealed by the mountains alongside, and the V-shaped rock in between the sea, which breaks a single wave into two coinciding outbreaks of gigantic waves. Consecutively, the waves pummeled through the shoreline rocks, filled with lichen, making them slimy. It was arduous for both of us to stand there, but I was reluctant. The guide instructed me to follow, of which I pay no heed. He stood neither far nor nearer, attentively cautious of not losing my sight. Cautiously, I perceived beneath the water there were placed rocks, sizable enough to walk on, leading up to the V-shaped rock. Squabbling with my brain, which tormented me with fear of drowning, and heart, which propelled me to
I acted, marching on the underwater rocks. The guide squawked in anxiety from behind, but I kept moving forward. However, before the coming of that terrible tidal rush, I was smoothly going forth, without any hindrance or obstacles in the way. But that mammoth of a wave unnerved my guts. It swept over me, and all I heard was depressed yelling of my guide, calling for help. The touch of sensitivity built my senses back to consciousness. I was on a remote island. Across the land lays the ocean, and no sign of the V-shaped rock to which I was after. By the brightness of the shining sun, I perceived it was noon. The fear of being adrift crept into my heart. Though to explore my unsolicited visit to this remote island planted a seed of curiosity in my soul. The island was totally deserted, no inhabitants to be seen in exception of the few lizards crawling on the rocks or trying to hide beneath the sand. The shoreline was covered with seashells and shining black stones. I meticulously observed the stones, for their shining deceived me of valuable gems. However, they were not. I turned my gaze to the slope which make accent with the stone steps, leading up to somewhere deep into the desolated island. I outset my ascent. On reaching the crested hilltop, I saw a black steel gate. On the top of the gate, a frieze was sculpted of a woman, horrified as if she has seen something horrendous. Her hands were spread out. I assume she was trying to hug the intangible wind. Below the frieze was written this phrase in Italian dialect. It was undeniably going to be a prodigious exploration. I make haste and walk in the garden which was named Bliss. What I saw in there were no flowers, which blossoms or verdure, which put a mind to rest, but human bones scattered on the dusty ground. The sight greeted me with the malady. My mind ails with the smell of decay. Covering my mouth with my hands, I move forth, avoiding to step on the bones which gave a creak sound, ailing my mental strength which provokes me to panic. What doom befalls here, I can't tell. The atmosphere around gave melancholic and sorrowful perception. Fear resides its way alarmingly in my heart, which was pleading me to leave this unsanctified island. However, the dint of curiosity held me still to explore more, as not far from there I saw a building's top, round in structure, with crenellated walls. The sight gave me a good omen of the existence of mankind.
Leaving the vestiges behind of the garden, I was getting nearer to the building. The same shiny black stones which I saw on the shoreline were scattered on the way, a sign that the round building was built on the far end of the island near the shoreline. Furthermore, on reaching the building, I saw an underground duct which was supplied up to the top of the building. I was astounded to see the duct in this desolated island, with no electric equipments to generate air conditioning. I looked closely at the duct. It was not a normal duct system. It was thicker than the normal one. Half, or maybe more than half of it was under the ground. The other end was all the way up to the building's top. Not the roof, but to a window below the roof. I walked past the duct to search for the entrance door into the building, which I found a few steps away from the duct. The door was made of maple wood, and on it was written these words in Italian dialect: La Torre de Bliss. I knocked at the door and wait. No reply came, but a screeching sound from the duct, probably of a rat. Like the island, the building too was abandoned by the inhabitants. I exerted my full strength on the door and it opened up inwards with a creaking sound. I stepped inside. It was murky, but discernible to perceive the objects. A table was placed in the middle with some papers scattered on the top of it, and on the floor. I took all the papers, however, unable to read due to scarce illumination, though a red one caught my consideration with the word City of Bliss written on it. Therefore, I took the red paper outside and read. It gave the description of a new species of lizards the unknown researcher found in this island, which he named the City of Bliss. The duct was installed by him for the research. The date mentioned in the paper was the 25th of June 2000, and today it was the 28th of June. It was clear the researcher was still here somewhere, diligently doing his researching work. It puts me to relieve I was not alone. There was again a screeching sound, with a painful moan from the duct. I moved closer and tried to understand the sound. It was like a creature using its prehensile feet to move forward, trying to reach the end of the duct on the top. I throw the paper outside and walk inside the tower again to inspect the duct. On the extreme left of the door was another door with a knob. I turned the knob and found serpentine steps leading to the top of the tower. Ascending the stairs was a difficult task. There were no rails to hold. On the very last step, there was another door. It was ajar. On the other side, sea breeze kissed me. A window was on the left, open to the raging tidal waves, and on the right was the duct. The squared aperture was gaping at me, manifesting darkness inside.
I cupped my hands and gave a hoot like an owl. The sound echoed under the duct. In response came an unpleasant human voice calling for help. A human being was stuck inside the duct. It must be the researcher. The conversation between the two of us began. How can I help you? I am severely wounded. These creatures won't let me reach the top. What creatures? These cruel, abhorrent living thing, help or they will feast on my flesh. My feet are gone, they crippled me. He replied in a harrowed, painful voice. One crawled on my back, several penetrating my abdomen, and one is crawling up to the duct. It hearken your words, myriads are following it, they are coming for you. Horror struck me. First it was a screeching sound, later turned into a stroke as steel on steel. I backed away from the duct to the window which was open to the furious sea waves below. The thing which manifested from the duct's squared hole was the reason I jumped off the window into the fierce sea waves. It was a lizard, mouth gnawing the entrails of human flesh, with the help of fangs, its huge claws, with 2-inch sharp nails on each, and size probably not of a normal lizard. It was about 15 feet, 4 to 5 meters long. Myriads of the same extent erupted out from the square duct hole. The sight left me dumbstruck, leaving me no choice to jump off from the window into the sea. I was on the mercy of the waves as I faint. When I woke, I was in the hospital. The haggard-looking guide was standing next to me. He told me 3 days from today I was found unconscious on the V-shaped rock.